I'm Kensei and welcome to DragonTrek. As you can see from the title of this video, I am through hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2022. For those unfamiliar with the terminology, a thru-hike is hiking an entire long-distance trail, usually in a set time, like a year. This video will have two parts. In the first part I will talk to you a little bit about the trail, and in the second part I will talk a little bit about myself. The Appalachian Trail is about 2,200 miles long. The exact distance changes from year to year as the trail is modified or rerouted. It passes through 14 states. Its southern terminus is at Springer Mountain in Georgia, and its northern terminus is Mount Katahdin in Maine. And the 14 states it passes through are Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Jersey, and Maine. The elevation gain and loss is equivalent to hiking Mount Everest from sea level to the top and back 16 times. One example of how the Appalachian Trail changes is the approach trail. The approach trail is about 8 miles long. It begins at the Miqualola Falls State Park and it ends at Springer Mountain. It used to be part of the Appalachian Trail, but it no longer is. And I intend to hike the approach trail. The waterfalls you pass when you do so are stunning. So obviously the first state on the Appalachian Trail is Georgia. The trail crosses North Carolina and Tennessee in about 380 miles. The reason I'm mentioning them together is because 200 of those miles crosses the border between those states back and forth several times. Clingman's Dome, with its 6,643 feet, is the highest point on the Appalachian Trail and it is located in Tennessee. Virginia is the longest state on the AT or Appalachian Trail, with 550 miles or a quarter of the entire trail. There is much to see here. We have the Shenandoah National Park, we have McAfee Knob, which is the most photographed spot on the AT, and we have Damascus, where they have the annual Trail Days Festival, which has made them known as Trail Town USA. With Trail Town USA on the East Coast, we have Fighter Town USA on the West Coast, or at least that's where it used to be. Back in the day when Marine Corps Air Station Miramar was known as Miramar Naval Air Station. Top Gun, and I visited that place the first time I was in the US, and the next time I'm in the US I will be visiting Trail Town USA. West Virginia is the shortest state with only 4 miles, but Harper's Ferry is the headquarters of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, is located in West Virginia, and it is considered the psychological halfway point of the Appalachian Trail. Talking about halfway points, let's skip ahead to Pennsylvania, where the actual halfway point is, and talk about one of the most cherished traditions of the Appalachian Trail, the half-gallon challenge. And what is the half-gallon challenge, you ask? You eat half a gallon of ice cream. Sounds like a lot. I'm not looking forward to doing that, but it is what it is. Let's go back to Maryland, the second shortest state on the AT. It's 41 miles and you are required to sleep in designated shelters, so many hikers decide to hike all of it in a single day. There's even a 4-state challenge where you start in Virginia, just beyond the border to West Virginia. You hike the 4 miles of West Virginia and the 41 miles of Maryland into Pennsylvania. And having done so, you've hiked in 4 different states in a day if you complete the challenge within 24 hours, hence the 4-state challenge. On the downside, that means you miss Harper's Ferry, and I really want to see the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and go into their office. And more importantly, you'd miss all of Maryland. And I'm a geek. And one of the things I geek out about is the U.S. Naval Academy, which is located in Annapolis, Maryland. And I would love to see that while I'm there. That would be so awesome. After Pennsylvania, which has earned the nickname Rocksylvania because it is so rocky in parts, we have New Jersey. New Jersey was the first state I ever visited when I came to the US. Well, if you can call it visited, I landed at an airport in New Jersey and then I left to New York. And just like then, after 70 miles in New Jersey, I will leave for New York, which is about 90 miles long. And then we have the 50 miles of Connecticut, followed by the 90 miles of Massachusetts and the 150 miles of Vermont. Vermont has also earned a nickname of Vermud because it can be a little muddy. We then come to New Hampshire and it's 160 miles, where the Appalachian Trail summits 16 of the 48 4,000-foot peaks of New Hampshire, which are their tallest mountains. And then we have Maine, with its 280 miles. 100 of those miles are known as the 100-mile wilderness. There's no civilization for 100 miles, though these days there are people who will actually drive food for you into the middle of that area for a fee. And at the end, you summit Mount Katahdin. Some call it Mama K, and that is the end point. Having said that, you need to summit Mount Katahdin before October 15. If you're running late to Mama K, it's better to skip ahead, summit Katahdin, and then hike back the other way and complete your trip. I know I covered some states more than others, and if there's something you want included, please write about it in the comments. I know, for example, that my sisters wouldn't forgive me if I didn't visit the hotel where they recorded Dirty Dancing. They love that movie, and nobody puts baby in a corner. Now that we have talked about the trail, let's talk about me. For those of you that already know me, you know that I'm using a nickname. Kensei is not my real name. I decided to go with something that is easier to pronounce. If I was going for the original Japanese, that might not be the case, but I'm not. Initially, I planned to give myself a trail name right away. For those of you not familiar with the terminology, a trail name is a name that you use on the trail, similar to a name or nickname used by fighter pilots, their call signs, such as Maverick, Goose, or Iceman. I am 50 years old, overweight and out of shape, but I have friends that say that ground is a shape too. I graduated from high school, I served my country, I served God and my church. I went to college, I've had a number of jobs. I have a sedentary job and sedentary interests. I work at the computer, most of my interests are at the computer. I read, I write, I play games, and I go to the movies. I have minimal backpacking experience. Before I started preparing for the Appalachian Trail, I had not spent a night in a tent for 25 years. If military service doesn't count, it's been 30. If sharing a large tent with several other people doesn't count, it's been 35. I first discovered the Appalachian Trail about 2014. As the years passed, the internet showered me with more and more information about the AT, or Appalachian Trail. I started thinking about hiking the trail myself, but never made any decision either way. In 2019, I visited Florida. I had done my research. I had picked a motel close to a place where I could rent a bicycle, which I could use to go and see the places I had planned to go and see. When I got there, however, that place did not rent bicycles, but there was a place 5 miles down the road that did. So I walked. Unfortunately, since I was out of the country, the internet on my phone did not work properly, and I had forgotten the address of the place I was going to. I knew the street because it was the same street I was on, but not the number. I did know, though, that the number was lower than 20,000, so I kept on walking. When I passed 20,000, the sun had set. I was dehydrated and my clothes were drenched in sweat. I had not seen the place anywhere, even though I knew I had passed it. So my only option was to return to my motel. On the way home, I got something to eat and something to drink, but being in the cold section of the store was freezing because my clothes were wet. That day I walked about 16 miles, and when I got back to my hotel, I started making some calculations, because I am a geek. I knew that walking on a straight road and with minimum pack, unprepared, dehydrated in the Florida sun would not be the same thing as hiking the Appalachian Trail with its hilly terrain and the amount of gear that most hikers wear. It's not the same. But my calculations were broad and quick. And if I hiked 10 miles per day for 4 days and rested on the 5th day, I would be able to hike the Appalachian Trail in 9 months. And with that calculation and that experience, I decided that I would hike the Appalachian Trail. I could tell you more about it, but this seems like a good place to stop. Keep on trekking!